Hi, I'm Nicholas Seminario, founder of Dark Angel Company. This podcast is to share the untold stories of just a few of the many people battling mental illnesses in this world. If you're in need of a little inspiration to keep fighting or to feel less alone in your battle, keep listening and share to spread awareness. This is the Dark Angel Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Dark Angel Podcast. It's Nick again, and I just wanted to thank you guys for another amazing week. I hope you guys have enjoyed last week's episode. It really means a lot when you guys share, like, and give 5-star ratings. It helps push it out to more people, which we always appreciate. Today I have Gia Novelli, and she's going to be sharing her story, going through things like an eating disorder, drug addiction, abuse, depression, so many things that she has struggled with and kind of turned a corner and really has an amazing story. So I want you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you're doing right now, and yeah.
Cool. So I'm Gia. Basically, right now I'm 21. I'm working at a hair salon. I've been working there for 2 years as a full stylist. And before that, I went to school very briefly. Ended up realizing that hair was really what I wanted to do, and that's kind of what I've basically been doing. I
Very
just
cool.
work constantly.
Very cool. Where is that at?
So that's in Wantagh, right on
Okay.
the island. It's out of a suite, so it's kind of like an office building for like beauty professionals. So there's like waxing, laser, but I strictly do hair.
Okay, very cool. How'd you get into that? Is that something you've always been passionate
So-
about, or?
Basically, I grew up with it. My mom's two best friends, one was a professional makeup artist who used to like travel to the city, do these like crazy shows, and her other best friend, her aunt owns a hair salon. So
Very
kind of
cool.
grew up with it, just caught on to it. It just like came naturally.
Okay, very, very cool.
Yeah.
So I want to get into your story, what you've been through. Let's start from the beginning.
Mhm.
Where did all of this start?
So I guess, honestly, kind of before I was born. So my mom met my dad when they were in high school. They both went to Bethpage as well. And she ended up getting pregnant with me at 19. He was in the military, so he was stationed in, I want to say California.
Okay.
But basically, after that, my mom ran away to go be with
Okay.
him and then came back with me. So that's obviously a major culture shock. But after that, my dad got discharged from the military for like drugs and alcohol and everything with that. And that's kind of where it really all goes south, I guess. Because him being home was such like a tick, I guess, for me. Because it's almost like, number one, you weren't home to begin with. I understand. Well, now I understand. I'm older. But you were in the military. But it's almost like when you came home, you weren't a good dad type thing. So it started off good from what I can remember. Obviously, I was very young. And then it started off with basically just like verbally, like, like you're a piece of shit, that type of stuff. Like, get out of my way, start nudging me. And progressively kind of just got worse and worse and worse.
And how old were you at that time?
So I want to say I was probably around 4 or 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So as a 4 or 5-year-old, I
Yeah.
mean, did you even understand what was going on?
I just thought that I was doing something wrong. But I didn't know what I was doing wrong because this wouldn't happen at my mom's house.
Okay.
Very different, like both not good situations, but very different situations where my mom's house, I had my grandma, who was basically my mom, who raised me and loved me. And then I had my mom, which we'll obviously get into. But my dad was very just physical, brunt force, just straight in with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, as you were growing up, was it scary to go to your dad's? Was this something that you were fearful of? Like, how did you kind of understand all this at such a young age? Like, that's...
Yeah.
I mean, and did you think this was also normal? Like, did you see other kids this was happening to? Or,
Yeah.
were you confused? Like, what was that like?
So basically, I loved going to my dad's because I loved my dad because I didn't know what was going on. So I didn't know that this was coming from a place of he was sick and needed help and that it wasn't like necessarily geared towards me. But at that time, I just loved him and that's how he treated me. I just thought it was normal.
Okay. Wow. So would you go to school and like tell your friends about this, or you just really didn't even bat an eye to it? It was normal.
No, because it was just like, oh, like I'm going to my dad's for the weekend. What'd you do? Like, I just wouldn't bring it up because it's almost like I felt like I knew it was wrong, but I didn't understand the logistics behind it at that age, obviously.
Okay.
But
so then as you got older, how did all of this progress? How did this get worse or better if it did? What was that whole progression like?
Yeah, so as I got older, it obviously progressively got worse. But what I want to say, I was 6. I went to his house to go visit him, and he literally just wasn't there. It was just his 2 parents, and they were like, all right, like, he's going away for a little bit, but, like, you're going to stay with us for the weekends now. And I was like, oh, what is this? Not that I didn't love them, but I was like, I came to see my dad. Like, where is he? And then he tried to come back into my life when I was 12, but my mom wouldn't allow it to happen, which I massively respect now as an adult. At the time, I was very upset. But yeah, so he tried to come back into my life. And then actually recently this year, he reached out to me. I answered. We got into like a whole altercation type thing where basically it really just shows how bad addiction is, where he's still struggling. And I'm 21 years.
Wow.
So he's still in and out of rehab, but it's kind of one of those things where it's now like, I realize what he's done. I've realized the damage, and it's something that I personally can't move past. I understand if other people can, but it's just too much for me.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where it's like, I talk to him, but maybe once every like 6 months.
Wow. Yeah. And I understand, it's like, that's not something that's easy to just overcome, right? Like, this is something you've known, like you said, since you were born, right? So it's like, that's how you were treated your whole life, and you don't know any different. So yeah, I don't think that's something that's easy to just move past.
Yeah.
So this is something that's, like you said, affected you your whole life.
100%.
So taking that through life, what has that been like too? Like, you're 21 now, and this is something you've dealt with since birth.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, and I don't know you super well, but I feel like, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like you're a person where, like, you don't let this stuff kind of define you, if that makes sense.
Like, I'm the type of person, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You could say whatever you want. You could do whatever you want. It doesn't affect me. I'm very comfortable with myself now at this point in my life. But yeah, no, you're 100% right. It's just like, I guess now in the future, I have a really big issue building relationships with men. And it's not even just my dad. Obviously, that's like the initial progressor. But even after that, I've really only had 2 guys that I've been serious with. Never even dated, but I guess serious.
Yeah.
Just both very mentally traumatizing, I guess, relationships, you could say. But just treated me like shit, told me I was fat, wouldn't let me order food when I went to dinner, like crazy shit like that. But I was also, yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like, I would ask to order something at dinner, and he would be like, no, she's good.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
I'm, like, speechless.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, there was one day where I ordered a cheeseburger, and I got it. And then afterwards, we were in the car, and he literally told me, he was like, you look fucking massive after eating that.
Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Did you smack him? You should have.
I literally got out of the car. I was like,
Good.
pull over. And he was like, we're a mile from your house. And I was like, I don't care. Pull over. And that was my breaking point with that one. But it's almost like, I feel like because I loved my dad so much, like, it's hard for me to tell the difference, or it's hard for me to figure out when somebody's not a good person for me when it's too late.
Okay.
I give people too many chances because it's like I want to fix them because I wanted to fix my dad type of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, at this point, it's out of my control, but it's almost who I am now.
Yeah.
That I'm 21 and I've never had a boyfriend.
Yeah.
At all. I've never had anybody ask me out like that because I physically can't open up.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's such a difficult thing. And it's like, I recently did an episode on our inner child.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And, it's like, there's all these things we go through as kids, some worse than others. And it's like, those things stick with you.
100%.
And in some instances, you're almost kind of stuck in that. You know? It's like, you can't get past that. So, and it carries on through your adulthood, and it's like,
it's not something you could just turn off.
Yeah, and I have one of my best friends has a almost like a kind of similar situation to me. And we always say whenever we hang out, we always just relive our childhood because we never got to have one.
Yeah.
So it's almost like at 21, I'm doing such stupid things like, I don't even know, but just stupid things that like a 6-year-old would do, having the best time of my life because I never got to do that.
Yeah, and that's important too, though.
It's a vital part of living life.
Yeah,
everybody has to experience it.
And you had that taken from you, so yeah, I think you should be doing, whatever makes you happy. I think 1,000% you should. Now, I want you to continue on your story. You know, I know you said you were 5 years old, so kind of take us through, 5 all the way until now.
Yeah, so 5 basically went to my dad's house and he left. And then from there, my mom at the time, they were already divorced. So my mom was talking to somebody, but she didn't want him to meet me yet, who's my now stepdad, who I love. He is the only man that I love. He's the best person ever.
That's amazing.
But he basically raised me. I've known him since I was 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, even though everything else, I just still can't rattle it. But so then after that, 6, I started competitively dancing, which is when eating comes into play with everything.
Yep.
So I started off at great studio, did not have a competition team though. My mom wanted me to compete, so we left and we went to another studio. So at this point, I'm 6 years old.
Yeah.
They're like weighing us.
What?
Yeah. No, it gets worse. They used to tell us, so obviously you're 6 years old, you have to wear tights, you don't want like your lines and everything to show, you know, you have sisters.
Yeah.
And so they literally used to be like, they used to make us be like, get a G-string, can't have your line show. I was 6 years old. Do you think my mom was going to put me in that?
Are you kidding me?
I know. It's like some parts of the dance world could be so toxic and people don't realize that.
I didn't even know that was a thing. That's insane.
And actually, but her studio has now since closed twice and has had to reopen under another name because of how badly she's treated those kids.
Good. I mean, it should be closed permanently.
I know. She should not be able to teach children.
No, that's insane. What does the weighing have to do? It's 6 years old. Like, ever.
Exactly. That's very common in dance, too.
Really?
Most college teams have, they track your BMI, they track your weight. Very.
Are you kidding? How is that allowed still?
Mm-hmm.
That's like a thing still?
I know some teams that basically, if you're not a certain weight, you're not allowed to put on a certain costume.
Are you kidding me?
And it's hard, too, because it's like, you can't base people off of that, because I'm 5'2", and I weigh the same as my best friend who's 5'9".
Yeah.
Like, our weights are very differently distributed, too.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's crazy. That's something I can never
That's
fathom.
absurd.
But, so it started with that, and that also never really clicked for me, because my mom was good. My mom hid that stuff.
Okay.
But... so at that point, she was hiding that from dance, and then when I would go home, it was like, ate a little bit too much. Your leotard's looking a little tight. Like,
really?
Start to wean back very slowly. Like, nothing that I would have noticed or that would have necessarily hurt my feelings at the time, but like little things like that started to kick in, and then dance started to progress. Obviously, further on. I ended up having to switch studios again because my mom didn't want me exposed to that. Thank God.
Yeah, that's nice.
So I went to another studio, same old dance studio as every other studio in Long Island, just nothing crazy. And then after that, I had a major fallout with dance basically because of my whole eating thing. So when I want to say I was in middle school, I started to notice that's when it was like blowing up. And I've always been a little bit curvier. I've always had like bigger legs, bigger hips. And so when I noticed that like all these dance girls are like 2 pounds and or being able to wear a 2-piece costume and not worrying about like what they're eating before, I was like, oh, okay, it's competition like time. Like I can't eat before the weekend of competition. So I would literally not eat for 4 days straight, probably 3, 4, maybe have like a bite of a granola bar in between, go home and then eat like 3,000 calories all at once. Yeah, it was crazy. And it's like...
and you were young.
Yeah, this didn't happen until like, I want to say like 7th or 8th grade. It's really started happening for me, like middle school, because I feel like that's when you start noticing things.
Yeah, exactly.
You start catching on, you're becoming an adult.
Yeah.
Kids are growing up. So that's when I was like, oh, social media was starting to become big.
Yeah.
And that's really, I feel like, what helped drive that dent.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's like you see all these beautiful girls, and it's like at that age you're so insecure and you don't understand that, number one, a lot of things are photoshopped.
Yeah, it's fake.
Everything's fake nowadays, and you don't understand that as a kid. So then that led to that. And at this point now, my mom started to get a lot worse with like just her comments and everything. Like if I were to try to explain myself or explain my feelings, immediately cut off.
Really?
Yeah. Like if I were to tell her, say if like you did something to upset me right now, and I was like, I just didn't like the way that you did that, like it just made me uncomfortable or something like that, she'd be like, no, you're just crazy. I don't understand why you're thinking like that. Okay. And I'd be like, oh my God, shit, am I crazy? Like freaking out. And so that at that point, I felt like, because I couldn't talk about my feelings, it was just dance and it was home. I didn't have my dad. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel comfortable talking to my mom. And at that point, I was like, if she's going to alienate me like this, all my other family members are. So I had all these just like horrific feelings just building up that I couldn't express. So I didn't know what other way to express it. At that point, I just felt like...
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt. This next part of the podcast, Gia talks in depth about self-harm and the raw and true feelings of how she felt at the time when she was doing this. Self-harm is an extremely serious problem that many people are affected by. I chose to include this part for informational purposes for people who can't understand it, in hopes that they can see the perspective of people going through it. It is never the answer, and if this is something you are dealing with right now, I urge you to text CONNECT to 741-741 for a free self-harm text line. If this is a topic that may be a trigger for you in any way, shape, or form, please skip ahead to this timestamp now. It is 20 minutes and 35 seconds. Thank you.
This is probably around like 7th grade. Everyone else is just throwing jabs at me and hurting me so much. Like, does it feel good? So that's the first time I experimented with cutting myself. I took my eyeshadow shaver and I slashed my wrist. And then afterwards, it felt good. Mm-hmm. It felt like release. So I kept doing it. And then one of the dance moms came up to me and she looked at my arm. She was like, why are you doing this to yourself? And I literally was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And so then at that point, my mom put me in therapy, but it really did not help much because it's not going to change what's going on at home.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And at that point, I still can't understand what's going on. So it was just getting progressively worse because my mom was mad at me. She wasn't understanding.
Yeah.
So she was like, now I have to pay for therapy because you're doing this to yourself. You're a burden. Like that whole thing. And that's when I was like, oh, it's not getting better.
Yeah.
So fast forward to, I guess, like my sophomore year of high school, really overwhelmed APs and everything. Kickline, dance, home.
And I just want to stop you just for a second.
Yeah.
While all this was going on, right? So you started self-harm in middle school. It was the end of middle school, right? So did your friends notice? Like, were people noticing, you know, what was kind of like your daily life like? Like, you obviously went to school, you know, it's like, how was that whole situation? You know, were there teachers who saw and, like, tried to help? Like, because obviously you went through a tremendous amount of stress, pressure as a kid. And like you said, that builds up. That's not something that's just like, oh, yeah, whatever, I'm fine. You know, it's like, that weighs on you, you know, and like you said, you had dance, you had just issues at home, whatever it was like, it was so many things and it just kept piling on each other. So how did you deal with that in middle school? You know, like how did you go around? Like what was it like?
I had to get smarter with it.
Okay.
If I was going to do this thing that made me feel good, that was bad, I couldn't let other people see that I was doing it. So I wouldn't do it on my wrists because dance costumes, short sleeves, tank tops, summer. Couldn't do it on my thighs because dance competitions. So I started to cut my hips and my ankles.
Okay.
So ankles, dancers always wear high socks, leggings to school, nobody questions it. Hips, nobody see my hips, so that's not an issue. And then at that point, I just hit my breaking point. I was just like, I don't even have time for myself. Like at that point, I was just so dedicated to doing my like, basically like how people say that they're stuck in like the 9 to 5 today. That was my 9 to 5. I was stuck. I didn't have any time for myself because I would wake up at 5 a.m. I would run until 6,
Really?
shower, get ready, go to school, kick line, dance, homework, bed.
Yeah.
Like that was it.
Yeah.
That was my life. I didn't even have time to process what I was going through or feel it half the time.
And now looking back now, like, what would you say to yourself? You know, like even at that time specifically.
Just, it's so hard because it's just like, it's not your fault.
Definitely not. No.
That's really what it was. I just felt like everything was my fault and I was doing something wrong because my mom was gaslighting me for talking about how I feel. My dad was hitting me for existing.
Yeah.
Everything was my fault.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's just not your fault. Sometimes
Definitely
you just
not.
have to take a step back and be like, look at it from an outside picture and be like, all right, why is this person doing this?
Yeah.
What's their backstory? You kind of have to like almost like dissect everybody to understand really what's going on with you.
Yeah.
Which is hard.
And were you able to like communicate this to anybody? Like I know you said you went to therapy. Were you fully transparent in therapy? I know
No.
that's tough. Yeah.
I've never been.
Yeah.
Even today, I still can't be. I just can't open up like that.
Yeah.
It's just not my... I don't know. I just
It's
can't
hard.
do it. Yeah.
It's hard. And especially when there's a lot of stuff, you know, it's like, it's very hard to, sometimes you don't want to relive it, you know, and it's like.
Yeah, and it's hard to trust people with this stuff because it's like, some people are fucked up and some people will use that against you. And
I get it.
Messed up.
I know. And, you know, it's like, that's the other important thing too, is finding a therapist where, you know, that won't happen, hopefully. You know, like you said, you never know, but, you know, do you still go to therapy today?
Yes.
Or no? Yeah, that's good. And I mean, I say this all the time. I suggest everybody should go to therapy. You know,
100%.
I think it can benefit everyone. You know, we all have issues, you know, no matter what it is, whether it's small, big, you know, it doesn't matter. But, you know, it's very important. And I think it's great that you do continue to go, you know, and it is hard to open up, you know, but I you know, and I was in a similar boat of opening up, you know, when I went to therapy, I didn't want to open up, you know, and once I realized, you know, I was only going to get out of it what I put into it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I know it's very cliche, but at the same time, it was true. You know, I was hiding a lot of things that were going on in my life, and I didn't want to be honest. I didn't want to almost admit it because then it would make it real. You know, it's only in my
100%.
head. Nobody else knows it, right? But when you admit it, then that's kind of when it becomes real. And I just kind of let go of that. I don't know how or what made me, but I realized I wanted to kind of change things and do something for the better, I guess, for lack of a better words. But that's kind of what pushed me into that next, I guess, section of, you know,
like the next level.
Yeah, exactly. And it did stink. It hurt, you know, but it was like you kind of I had to just be fully transparent, you know, and I think it definitely helped, you know, but it's definitely easier said than done, you know, 1,000%.
I feel like with me, it's just like, I don't want to open up to somebody who I have no connection with.
Yeah, and I understand that.
Yeah.
I do. I definitely do.
Like, my best friends know everything that's gone on with me, and that's pretty much it. But
so,
other than that...
Okay, so that's good. So you do talk to people.
Yeah,
exactly.
now,
Yeah.
Or even in, like, middle school and high school, like, my two best friends, Olivia and Amanda, I could still say have saved me to this day.
Yeah.
They have
amazing.
Always, always, always backed me up no matter what. In any, even if I'm wrong, they'll literally pull me aside after and be like, you know you're wrong, right? Like, no matter what, on the spot, they will always back me up. I could tell them anything. And it's just like with them, I know for a fact that there's zero judgment.
Yeah.
I have told them the most craziest, messed up, weirdest things, and there's zero judgment from either of them.
And that's amazing. So that's good.
Yeah.
You have somebody where you can, you know, let these things out too. That's super, super important. So, you know, as you were in high school, I know you said you also went through a bunch of stuff too. get into that, all the mental health stuff and, where everything kind of really took a turn for the worse.
Yeah, so I want to say maybe more so starting freshman year, I started to feel it. That's like that shift in high school.
Yep.
Freshman year always sucks. It's the worst. But sophomore year, for some reason, was the hardest year I've ever had in high school, in any schooling experience in general. It was just like I had so much anxiety going to school just because it's like I had so much to anticipate of what I had to do afterwards. And it's like I knew I wasn't going to get it all done because there wasn't enough time in the day. I'm only one person, could do so many things. So I felt like that almost started to trigger my depression because it's like, I know I'm not going to get it done anyway. Why am I even going to do it?
Yeah.
And at that point, it's just like I had no motivation. Like I did not want to get up. I didn't want to brush my teeth. I didn't want to shower. I didn't want to do anything. I literally just wanted to like rot in my bed all day. And one day I got into a massive fight with my mom. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. And I took basically every Xanax or Oxy I could find in the house, any alcohol bottle we had, and I downed it. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember anything after that. I just remember waking up in the hospital. And when I woke up, my parents found me. Well, my mom and my stepdad found me. And they just took me to the hospital. I was fine. But they told me it was really close. And my mom was like, I can't believe how much these bills are going to be. That's the first thing she said to me when I woke up.
Really? Wow. How did you even react to that?
It proved my point.
Yeah.
At that point, I was just like, yeah, I officially have no one.
Yeah.
My own mom doesn't even like me. Don't get me wrong, too, because I know my stepdad loved me. I know my grandma loved me. But it's like my first 2 heartbreaks of my life were my 2 parents.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's just like, if you don't have your parents, who do you have?
Yeah.
In high school, you rely on them.
100%.
They're your ride, they're your bank account, they're your everything. And mine one of them won't even see me, and one of them doesn't like me.
Yeah.
So at that point, I came home. I was forced into therapy again. Didn't want to go. And I started to get a little bit more open with this therapist, but I didn't like that she always wanted to have my mom in the room.
Okay.
And obviously that's a big issue and why I did what I did. So I wasn't going to open up and be comfortable talking about that in front of her because I'm going to get gaslit into thinking that I'm wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want that.
Yeah, it's just going to go, it's just the same thing over and over again.
And now, what made you go for the pills? Like what made it that, like why wasn't it something else? Like what was your reasoning behind that? Or was it just, you're like, whatever I can find, I'm just going to,
Quick, easy, painless.
Okay.
Not going to make a noise. Nobody's going to know. Not going to disrupt anyone.
Yeah.
Not going to be a problem.
Yeah. And that's something so like tough for, somebody in 10th grade. What are you, 15, right? In 10th grade. So it's like, even to be thinking about that, like it's sad, it's like, it's so hard.
Yeah.
That's what you had to go through your whole life, and it's like, and I'm so happy that you're sitting here today and you're able to tell your story and, show people that, like, and we're eventually going to get into it, how everything's kind of turned the corner and how you're doing today. But like you're sitting here with a smile and I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
I really, really do. I think it's something to be said, no matter what hand you're dealt, you can always make something positive out of it, and it's not always easy. And like you guys can see, you've really had to battle, you've had a battle your whole life and, you're doing an amazing job with it. Seriously.
Thank you.
You could continue.
Yeah. So at that point, I was kind of just like, all right, this is game over. I'm going to live my life like a zombie, not have any motivation, do my thing. And I did that for a really long time, probably until I was about, honestly, Probably until I graduated high school.
Really?
I was just miserable. It was just not my place, not my people. I had my small group of friends, and that's who I relied on. And then I feel like after high school is kind of where it starts to get like a little bit weird. It gets like better and worse and better and worse. Like I'm trying to like figure it out now and figure out why I'm feeling the way I am and how to fix it. So after high school, I went on a trip to Thailand. It was great. I had the best summer of my life. I went on so many vacations. I was with my friends and family. I was genuinely happy for the first time in like years.
Yeah.
And then cut to school again, another downslope. And at this point, I had met one of those really crappy guys I was telling you about earlier. And I talked to him for about, on and off, probably for about like a year.
Wow.
So that was a very on and off year. And then afterwards, once I finally stopped talking to him, stopped contact, like I don't see him anymore. I told my friends about, because I wouldn't tell people about what he would do because it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Do you have, like, I wouldn't want to tell my friends and be like, he won't let me order.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm fat.
Which is not even close to being true.
Thank
like,
you.
Seriously.
But I didn't realize that. I was just like, oh my God, like, if he thinks I'm fat, are they going to think I'm fat?
And then you start to believe it and you start to convince yourself of it. And
yeah. And then I opened up to, at this point now I have 3 best friends. So, and then I started to open up to them about it and they were like, are you serious? They were like, why wouldn't you tell us?
Yeah.
They were like, you were gaslit, manipulated, just tortured. Like, that wasn't your fault. And I was like, really? They were like, yeah. Like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Like, do you need to talk about this? Clearly. And they're kind of just the ones that are like, no, like, nothing that's happened has been your fault.
Yeah.
They are really the ones who have, like, pulled me out of it.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Because, like, in all seriousness, you know, you're in something, you start to believe what you're told. You know,
yes.
So it's like,
it's scary.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said before, like your whole life, that's kind of been the MO, right? Everything's your fault. You're wrong. You're this. You're that. So it's like, you're going to believe it. You know, it's like you're going to hear these things and you're going to be like, oh, this person's saying it. This person's saying it. You know, and like where they're not having your best interest at heart, you know, and it's a good thing for those friends because you were able to reach out to them and they're able to be like, no, they're crazy. There's nothing wrong with you.
Yes.
You know, it's them. Like, and, you know, it probably snapped you out of it. You know, you're probably like, wait, you're right.
Yeah,
you
looking
know?
back on it, I was like, was I, like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
It's insane, but it's crazy because it's like, even after that relationship, I got roped right back into another one.
Really?
For 3 years.
Really?
Yeah, on and off for 3 years. But still, it's like I can't break the cycle, even though I know I shouldn't be with somebody like that.
Yeah.
Nobody should.
Yeah.
I know that they're wrong, but I just realized too late because it's like I want to fix them.
I know, exactly.
It's insane.
It's tough because you know, and you can't choose who you like. You know,
exactly.
It's like,
and I'm just stuck in this like constant cycle of just same thing over and over again.
So, what do you think that? I mean, obviously, I know you said you think it's from your dad, right? Like it's that need to kind of fix him. You wanted that kind of just that love, you know, that unconditional love, and you didn't really get that.
I just want somebody to love me back the same way that I love them.
Yeah.
I like for everything to be 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
It should be. It's a relationship.
Yes,
100%.
exactly.
So I just have never received that, and I guess that's really it. I just have to figure out who's going to give that to me and who's going to not treat me like that.
You
eventually.
Yes.
I got a long time, but
you definitely will. Exactly. There's no rush.
Yeah.
You know, and it is important to find that right person, you know, who will treat you right 1,000%.
Yeah.
But when you said you were it was Taiwan?
Thailand. Yes.
What was that like? Because you said you were really, really happy.
Crazy.
You know, if you have any really cool stories or cool experiences there, I'd love you to share it.
Oh, I love traveling. Traveling is like one of my number one passions in life. I've gone many, many places, but Thailand, I went with a big group of kids from school, and it was just like, I felt like it was almost the first like vacation where I fully immersed myself in their culture.
And were you by yourself?
No, not for this one. I went by myself to Costa Rica for 2 weeks last year. That was amazing.
Very cool.
Amazing. But Thailand was really the first place where I felt like I just understood what was going on. Like the way that they lived, I was taught like how they harvest rice from fields. I was able to do that with them. I was able to ride an elephant with them, make pottery. Like it was such an amazing experience. And I felt like that too is kind of just like helped me flip it around because I was like, no, there are so many good things. This is great. I don't want to stop doing this.
Yeah.
I want to experience more of this. So then later on, I ended up going on a cruise and to Florida and California.
Very cool.
Again, great experiences that summer. And then Costa Rica was great. Just Costa Rica, honestly, really helped me work through a lot of stuff, too.
Okay.
Yes, Costa Rica was great because, number one, I'm by myself. There's nothing to distract me, and I work with people. I work for 12 hours a day talking to people.
Yeah.
I love being alone.
Yeah.
Like,
that's amazing.
I need to just socially decompress. It's great. So to do that for like 2 weeks was amazing, but it kind of just made me sit back and like really think about everything that was going on in my life. And I was like, oh my God, it wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
Like, I finally realized like my mom's a narcissist because she's jealous of the fact that she didn't have a childhood because she had me at 19.
Yeah.
That's not my fault. You chose to have that. You chose to make that decision.
Exactly. Yeah.
And everything like that just started to click. And after that, I was like, all right. I'm fine.
And that's amazing.
There's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you, you know? And I love kind of how that works out too, right? Like you're on vacation, you know, it's really like a spiritual, you know, trip, right? You're by yourself. You're kind of just introspecting, you know, you have a lot of thinking to do. You're probably going over your whole life, right? Like this long list of things, and it clicked, you know? You're like, it's not me. And, you know, I'm someone who's similar. I like being by myself. I like introspecting. I like deep thinking. You know, I'll go out to dinner by myself. You know, like I love doing relaxing. That stuff. Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, it really does make you think, and it really does make you analyze things. And I'd love to kind of hear that whole experience, you know, really kind of zoomed in, you know, just how that whole 2 weeks went, you know, where it was like, how did this start? How did you come to terms with this stuff? And so I feel like I got to Costa Rica, met my Airbnb host, Amy. She was great. And then basically I went in June. So it's 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of nightlight. Oh, cool. And so 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. it's bright. So I just got up 5:30. I was like, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna surf today and have a good day. I went out and I surfed and I was like, oh, this is so nice. Yeah, that's cool.
And then I went to dinner by myself and I was like, oh my God, this is even better. And I just doing things by myself. I ended up meeting these two really cool guys. One was from Ireland, one was from Germany. Wow. We ended up hanging out the whole entire trip, and they were just super cool guys, very spiritual, very open. And you could just tell, like, they just knew stuff. Yeah. Like, looking at them, I was like, I want to be you.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, you know, and, like, the way that they spoke, they were just so knowledgeable, but, like, not about, like, I don't want to say things that don't matter, but, like, not about, like, stupid materialistic items or, like, stupid stuff like that. Just, like, about the world and the universe in general and how it works. And I felt like it kind of opens up my eyes a lot, too.
And it definitely, like I said, like, I am a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, you know, and that was supposed to happen. You know, you were supposed to meet those guys, and they were supposed to, you know, kind of open your eyes, like you said, and that's obviously what happened.
Yeah, and honestly, they are still both super cool. I still talk to both of them today.
Awesome.
Yeah, and after Costa Rica, I was kind of just like, I have to really look at everything from an outside perspective, and that's kind of what I've been doing since then, and it's been a lot better. But yeah, no, it's great now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I really don't have any complaints now.
That's amazing. Yeah. So it's like, how did you kind of get there? You know, like, was it literally just that one trip, and then it was just...
So it started a little bit earlier. One of my best friends, Amanda, me, her, and my other friend Will, we've always talked about taking mushrooms together.
Okay.
That was our goal. And we were going to take them all together for the first time at once. And Amanda got an opportunity to take them. We were like, me and Will were like, no, you have to try them. You have to.
Yeah.
And so she told us, she was just like finished her trip, and she was like, I am not the problem. And like her thing too. And I was like, what do you mean? She was just like, I just experienced the most beautiful, amazing things ever. And she just like was telling me about like all this like spiritual things that clicked in her life and her past, and how she realized basically the same thing as me. It's not my fault. And it had nothing to do with me. And I was like, oh, I want to try that. So she took me and Will to the Planting Fields Arboretum, and we took mushrooms there. And that was my first ever experience where I was just like out of my own head.
Take us through that. That's so cool.
Oh my God, I could talk about this for hours.
Go ahead, talk about it. I want take us through the whole thing.
Okay, I didn't know if I could talk about it or not.
Totally.
So okay, cool. So basically, we blended mushrooms at my house in a blender, made tea, and went to the fields. And while we were laying there, I was like, oh, I'm not feeling it. Like, should I take more? And she was like, give it time. I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden I kind of started to like hyper focus on everything. Like everything was just like HD, 8K, whatever, like crystal clear. And I was like, this is beautiful. I'm in a flower garden in the middle of May on a beautiful like 70-degree breezy day. It literally could not have been more perfect. And so at that point, then I started to feel like super light. Like I would lift my arms and I was like, there's nothing there. And she was looking at me like, oh my God, it's starting. So she was great too. She kind of just let us do our own things, work through what we had to do, and would just check in on us to make sure that we were okay, talk about what we needed to talk about. And at one point I was just laying, I was laying down on the ground looking up at this tree, and I was just like, this is my grandmother. She was looking at me like, what do you mean? And I was like, she's the deep root for our family. She's my root. She was like, what do you mean? She was just like, she's like the one thing that holds our family together. Like things just started to click because of that.
Okay.
And I almost feel like doing that after Thailand and after that amazing summer I just had where I'd experienced so many things, seeing nature in that mindset or that state of mind, I don't know, whatever it is. Seeing nature like that is completely life-changing. And I have to say, since I have done mushrooms, I've never been the same person.
Really?
And I'm very grateful for it.
That's so cool.
And that was just the first trip. It starts to like slowly open your minds.
Okay.
So it's just like after that, I progressively started realizing more and more and more. And then Costa Rica just hit and I was like, wait, this is great.
It was kind of like, that was the full circle.
Exactly. It had to happen.
Yeah, that's so cool. So what was kind of like your craziest realization when you were on mushrooms? Like with your whole past and everything.
With my past. I feel like it would have to be that my mom is mean to me because she's jealous.
Wow.
Because number one, I took air quotes her childhood away, and then I'm almost now, I guess, in a way, living her life. She wanted to be a hairdresser. I'm now becoming a hairdresser, and I feel like it's kind of all starting to fall into place for me. And that's kind of where the disconnect was for her. And realizing that is just very mentally relaxing.
Yeah.
Because I get a lot of shit on my job already. Hairdressing's not a job. You don't make money. You guys are all stupid. Trades really have a bad rap, but in reality, they are amazing. The best thing you will get into. You make your own schedule, make your own pay. It's great. But after that, I kind of just realized, and I was like, she's just jealous. Like, I have an amazing life.
Yeah.
I have somebody who's jealous of me.
Yep.
And that's why she didn't like me.
So how did you, like, see that? Like, how did this come to you?
Mushrooms.
No, I know. Like,
yeah. Oh, so, how did I see it in the mushrooms?
Like, exactly.
So,
yeah.
okay,
No,
okay. No, you're good. So, basically, just through like a couple of different trips, little things start to like click, like where you notice things. Where like there was one day I was looking at a flower. This is also my first ever mushroom trip, and I was just like looking at all like the underlying pigments in it. Like I saw through the pink to the like blue and red that mixed it together, or whatever it was that mixed it together. Like I just saw everything, and I was just like, color theory makes sense to me right now. Like I just understand hair. And then after that, I was like, hair. And then I was like, my mom wants to be a hairdresser. That's not weird. And then Amanda was like, your mom wants to be a hairdresser? And the way she said it, I was like, oh my God. And it was just like, it came to me and I was like, this is insane. Like, you just have so many realizations on, like, psychedelics like that and just things like that, that your mind can't allow you to comprehend and alter because it's not open like that.
Yeah.
When you take mushrooms or any psychedelic or anything like that, it just opens your mind to a state. That's why people go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It opens your mind to a state where it's almost like you can't not think. Everything that has ever been, you've ever heard, you've ever read, just kind of is in there, and it all slowly starts to come out piece by piece. And you kind of just start to realize a lot of things, just not necessarily family working through, just a lot of things in general with the world. It's very interesting.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting. That's even like to add on to your story. Like that is just such a cool like progression of things, right? Like
yeah, mushrooms really had a massive impact on my life.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I'm very grateful for them.
Wow.
Yeah, because like that's like another really good thing where I'm still learning to this day, obviously. There's still some things I have to work through, obviously, but it's kind of just like, it gives my mind almost like ease.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of just like a reminder, and it just fills in more blanks that I need to be filled.
Yeah.
I also just don't do it like, oh, I'm going to do drugs. Like, that's not my intention going into it.
Yeah.
I write out exactly what I want to work through. I read it as I go through.
That's so cool.
Yeah, there's, they have a bad rap. A lot of psychedelics do, but there's a right and a wrong way to everything. And if you want to open your minds, you got to do it the right way.
Yeah, exactly. So is that something you would say is a way you're bettering yourself today? Like that's a huge, contribution to what you're doing?
Yeah. So it's not something that I do constantly because you obviously can't function on them.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that I know when it's time. Like, I know when I'm just, like, feeling like I'm stuck in a simulation almost, and I'm just, like, I'm reliving my day every single day the exact same way. I need to open my eyes. I need to experience something new. I need something to just, like, change my life for 4 hours and tell me what to do. And it's almost like once I do that, I come out of it with such relief.
Yeah. That's
because I understand what's going on.
Yeah, that really is like amazing.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like that is so cool and unique that you're able to kind of come to terms with everything and understand.
It's really helped me work through it.
Exactly. And like you said, and that is your form of therapy too. I know you said you're still going to therapy, but that's your way of kind of keeping that stuff in that you don't want to share, but you're working through it. So you're not letting it sit there and kind of grow and pushing it down and then it explodes. That's a way you're working through it. That's how you're kind of overcoming everything. So I think that's really, really interesting. I really, really do. And
I do it with, obviously there's a couple of randos that'll pop in, but mainly I really only do it with my two of my best friends. So I always feel comfortable. It's those two people where I know that I'm not going to be judged no matter what I do.
Yeah.
Because obviously you could do a lot of stupid things on mushrooms.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I know that I'm 100% comfortable.
Yeah, that's so cool.
They've seen me at my worst. So.
Yeah. So is this something like people know, or is this going to be the first time people are hearing this?
Oh, that I take mushrooms?
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're good. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry.
All right. Yeah, no, I seriously think that's so unique. And like I said, like, you're able to really kind of understand your whole life through it.
Yeah. It's becoming a lot more common nowadays too, which is great, especially not only in like the recreational community, but I would say more so medically, because look at them doing ketamine IVs, and microdosing is potentially becoming a thing. Like, there's so many good things that come out of these natural resources that people don't use because they don't understand them.
Yeah.
So it's like once you really do your research and you understand how they work and you've experienced it, it's kind of just like, I don't know, creates like, number one, spirituality, but it creates a passion for spirituality, which almost makes it like, it eases my mind. Yeah. It's just like so relaxing to me to just sit and meditate for 10 minutes and just, it's really just connected me to that.
Yeah.
And that's something that's also helped my anxiety tremendously.
That's amazing. So you actually didn't mention your anxiety at all. You want to kind of get into that a little bit? So
as far as my anxiety, it's just something I've always had, but I never knew I had it. It started young, I assume, because of everything that happened. And I feel like my first panic attack, I was in 4th grade. And I used to constantly just have this feeling of sickness, like I was going to throw up in my stomach. And I would get so much anxiety over that, when in reality that was my anxiety in my stomach making me sick. Mm-hmm. And I didn't understand how to handle that because you're in 4th grade, you don't want to throw up in front of the class, you want to constantly go to the bathroom, you're panicking. Yep. And it was to the point where the teachers would be like, what's wrong with you? Like, are you okay? And I was just like, I don't feel good. I don't know. My mom obviously wouldn't pick me up because I'm going to the nurse every single day for 2 weeks. And so that was like my first real experience where I remember my anxiety, I would say, like the exact situation. And then since then, it's just been like, it's gotten better. I notice more so now it's a lot more work oriented. Okay. Like when I'm going in to some of those clients that are a little bit tougher, and I know that I'm gonna like get a hard time or like they're gonna give me a hard time or something like that, like I get so anxious to the point where I literally just have to lock myself in the bathroom and take like 5 minutes and just like breathe. You're fine. It's a job. Mm-hmm. It's not that deep. It's one client. You could do this. Like I had to give myself a pep talk. Yeah. But I've almost at that point came up with ways to work through it. That's something I definitely talked to my therapist about more so. Yeah. Okay. So kind of thinking about more so living in the moment. Yeah. Like this isn't going to affect me in 10 years if I mess up one part of a blowout or something like that. Yeah. Like that's helped me tremendously. Okay. Yeah, that's really, really good. Yeah. And how about other mental health issues? Are you struggling with anything else still, like depression, or is that something you've kind of gotten away from? You know, it's like through all the work that you've done, is that something that's kind of in the past now, or is this something that's still prevalent, you know? It's one of those things where it comes and goes depending on what you're going through. So I feel like more recently, since Costa Rica, I've been really good. That's amazing. But who's to say? There's events, you can't predict what's going to happen in the future. No. So I never want to say it's always going to be good, but at least I can almost like identify when I'm getting bad. Like now I know when I'm getting bad. That's amazing. And that's when I take mushrooms and I go on a spiritual trip and I figure my shit out and I'm fine. Which is awesome. See, like that's, I catch myself. Yeah, and that's so important that you're so in touch with yourself. Yeah. You understand what's going on, when things are going on, what's going to kind of happen. You know, you could kind of foresee these things sprouting. So I think that's really, really important. Another question I have is, was there any regret over your whole life? Do you have any regrets from, you know, whether it was the harm, you know, the hospital, whatever it was, anything? Were there any regrets? No. I mean, in the time, I would say yes. But then again, I wouldn't be the person I am today without them. Because I always say, like, you can't make the hard life make you hard. Just because I had a crappy life growing up doesn't mean that I have to be a crappy person. Totally. Doesn't mean that I have to be a hard bitch. Like, I feel like if anything, because I grew up like that, I am much more generous and open with that, more understanding, because other people didn't understand me. Yeah. So I feel like No. I love the person I am today.
That's amazing. And
Yeah.
you should, you know.
Thank
like,
you.
You have such an amazing story. Like, it blows my mind how much you've been through. And
Thank you.
you're able to sit here with a smile and you're able to tell your story and look at it in the eyes and say, you don't control me. You know,
Yeah.
I control me. I'm here because I got myself here. You know, nobody else. You know, it's all you.
Yeah.
And I don't know many people who could do that.
Thank you.
Seriously. So I really think you should be proud of yourself. Seriously.
Thank you. I feel like being adult is almost what changed it.
Yeah.
Like, you just grow up and you're like, okay, my parents don't run my life.
Yeah.
I run my own life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the best part.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like too, like you had to grow up at a young age also.
Yeah.
You know, you seem very, very mature. You're 21, you said, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm 20, but like we both seem like
yeah,
we're in
like
40s.
same vibe. Yeah, I know.
Exactly. So it's like, but yeah, you had to grow up at a young age and really kind of take your life into your own hands, and you did. You did that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, seriously. Now, I always like asking this question. What would you go back and tell your younger self, or when you were in your worst spot, what would you tell yourself? What advice would you give yourself?
It's so hard because it's like, I want to say don't do it, but at the same time, I don't want to change that.
Yeah.
I would just have to say keep fighting.
Yeah.
Like, this is not the end. You can keep doing this. You're in high school. This is so many people go through depression, anxiety, eating disorders in high school. That's like the hub. So it just gets better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not worth it to end it on one bad day or a stretch of 2 crappy years. Once you become an adult and you take charge, it's your own life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like, you're seriously like a symbol of that. You did have a lot of crappy years, and you didn't let it beat you.
Yeah.
You know, you won. And
Thanks.
you know, that's something to be proud of. You won.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is there anything else you would like to touch on, or anything else you'd like to add before we close out?
I would just have to say, I feel like my biggest thing through helping me with all of this is that family isn't always family. You don't have to be blood to be family. My family are my closest friends, my old dance family, and that's my work family. That's who I rely on. You don't have to rely on your blood family, and I feel like a lot of people, that's what causes many of these issues, because it's almost like you feel like you're in debt to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they do so much for you, when in reality, that's their own choice.
Yep. Exactly. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for
Seriously.
having me. I had so much fun.
So did I. You are an amazing person. I'm so proud of you. You should be proud of yourself. Seriously. Everybody in your life has a lot to be proud of for you and of you. You seriously did an amazing job. Thank you so much for being vulnerable.
Thank you.
You know, this was not easy, you know, and you made it very, very easy. So I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much for coming on, and we hope to see you in the future.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem.
I don't know which one to believe at.
You're good.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and don't forget to check out Dark Angel Company on Instagram at Dark Angel Co. and online at darkangelco.com. If you're interested in supporting and spreading awareness towards bringing light to a dark topic together, then tune in next time.